I know Tim's going to ask first, so go ahead, Tim.
Well, I got one anyway. Tim May, Columbus Dispatch.
No, really?
Hey, look, as you get ready to play a team y'all never played before, what are the rudiments of getting, obviously you've got tape from last year. They won 3 out of their last 4 and stuff. They got a new quarterback in there near the end of the year and stuff, but how do you sort of plan for what's coming?
You don't always know. I mean, the first game of the year, that's the kind of the beauty of it. Coach Vrabes in there talking about it all the time. It's like, hey, we don't have a preseason game. We're used to having, some preseason games and things. So you don't really know. So you got to really focus on what you do. I mean, you got a concept and an idea of what they've done last year, obviously what they were successful with in their 3 of the last 4 games. But you got to be prepared for anything. And, the most important thing is we want our guys to go out there, feel confident in what they're doing. It's about what we do. And, you got to be able to react and respond to the different things they'll give you.
When you look at your room, you're going to have 8 new starters compared to the end of last year and stuff. What will be sort of your message to them? What do you want to see out of them, I guess, more than anything else on Saturday?
Hopefully we put them in the toughest situations they can possibly have been in. And whether that's with some of the scout crew and the different things we've done, but the stuff we put them in against our offense, obviously it's going to be different at some point in time. The style of offense and this, that, or the other thing. But, in front of 107,000 people, we don't want them to have to worry about those things. We want them to say, hey, we know we've grinded through a lot of different things. We played against some great competition day in and day out. And the offensive line that we played against, the quarterback that we played against, the tailbacks we played against, we want those guys to feel confident in what they're doing. They go out, let their actions speak, and play the game of football.
Front row, Austin.
Luke, how much of a setback for Curtis was the injury or concussion earlier in camp? How much time did he miss? Is he ready to be the starting middle linebacker like Urban called him at the end of spring practice?
We'll see. I mean, it's hard. A guy that you would say a guy that's a junior in college maybe wouldn't miss a bunch because he's been here for 2 years and had a lot of experience. But the reality is he hasn't had a whole lot of experience. He hadn't had a whole lot of game. He started maybe 3 or 4 games last year at the beginning of the year, and so it was a little bit of a setback. But the great thing about it is Curtis Grant has come a long way, and I don't just mean what he's done on the field, but his maturity and the things that how he prepares and things like that. So I don't think it's going to hinder him. For a day or two out there, it was hard on him. But the reality is if that was a freshman that missed 10 or so days or 10 practices or something like that, you'd be much more worried. I'm not as worried about Curtis Grant because his passion and energy is what's going to show.
Front row middle, Doug.
You guys had some issues early last season with keeping leverage and tackling and that kind of thing. Just from what you can tell in practice, how do you feel about those sort of basic aspects of defense?
We felt better about how we finished the season with that stuff. And, the toughest thing about the first game of the year, we just kind of stressed it, we're going to stress it today, is we have not done a ton of live tackling. Not that we haven't gone in scrimmages and different things like that, but maybe our ones haven't been against the offensive ones a whole lot. We haven't tackled a quarterback, that's for sure. So a lot of those things in that first game, you're not used to. You're used to tagging off a lot. You're used to pulling off the quarterback. There's a lot of things that you got to emphasize throughout this week that they haven't done. And that's the thing that probably gives you a little bit of that gut ache to say, okay, how will they really react and respond in an open field and trying to tackle a quarterback and so used to running by a quarterback and don't get within 3 yards of Braxton or, those things that you're going to do no matter who your quarterback is during camp. Those are the things the first games, those are those woes things. Oh, goodness sakes, leverage shouldn't be an issue. It shouldn't be an issue. I tell you that. We stressed that. I think we did a much better job the last few games of the year last year. Now the big issue is, will you be sure tacklers? Can you have confidence in what you're doing? And maybe not have done a ton this spring or this fall camp.
Front row left, Rusty.
Luke, how strong a feeling do you have when out of the front seven will play? I mean, do you feel good about it, or are you kind of interested in seeing how they'll perform?
No, I feel great about it, to be honest. I really do. I really do. I mean, I know there's some things that just getting shored up and tackling and different things like that. But I really have a lot of confidence in what they've done, what they've shown, the maturity they've shown throughout the camp. We played against a really good offense, and I think that's one of those things that those guys will realize as they go out there and they start to play, throughout the entire season, that, wow, what they see on a daily basis from our inside drill to our pods drill to just even ones against twos is going to be very indicative of what they're going to see throughout the season. So I think those guys, to me, the biggest thing is they got confidence in what they do. I know I got confidence in them. I know Coach Withers got confidence in Coach Vrabel, Coach Combs. That's one of those things we feel really, really excited to see. Obviously, not saying everybody knows who that is or who they'll be just yet, but I can sit here and tell you I got a lot of confidence in what they're going to do.
Front row right, Bill.
Yes, Ryan Shazier is the only one of his front seven coming back. He wants to be great, puts a lot of pressure on himself, and said that his play kind of reflected that. He was not real happy with the way he had practiced. How have you seen his development? How important is he to this defense?
Well, he's very important. I mean, I think each and every guy. The one thing we're going to stress the whole time is there's not a whole lot of names out there. I know that people know about Ryan, they know about Roby, they know about Christian, but the idea is, we're not looking for the best 11 guys. And sometimes out of summer conditioning and different things that happen, you say, wait, here's your best 11. Here, your offense, give us who you guys think are our best 11, and then we'll rank our guys the best 11. That's not always what we're looking for. We're looking for the 11 best. And those are the guys that work together. And I think that's the thing that you're really going to start to see is Ryan, a guy that has to provide a lot of things for us. Yes, he is. But he has to work within the framework of what we're doing. And sometimes that's the problem. You put so much pressure on yourself. This is my junior year. I'm this, I'm that. The reality is, hey, we need you to do your job. We need you to do your job really, really good. And I think he's hopefully gotten back to that a little bit.
Much more discipline last year. Has that continued this year?
He has. He's become what I like to say is a linebacker. You see him start making linebacker plays instead of just highlight reel plays that he can make. The plays that we expect him to be able to do doing his job. And then when the lights come on and the plays are there to be had, that's one guy that has shown that he can do it. And but sometimes as you go into that junior year, you put a lot of pressure upon yourself, and we already throw a lot of pressure on these guys, and then you put it on yourself, and whether it's coming from wherever, home, friends, all those different things, the reality is we need you to play within the framework of the defense, be really, really, really good at what it is that you do, and everything else will handle itself.
Front row middle, Todd.
Repository. Noah Spence, Adolphus, Washington. I think outside of the coach's offices here, a lot of people have high expectations for the type of season that they can have. What are your expectations for those two guys? I mean, are they going to be guys that are going to be highly talked about across the country?
I think they will. I mean, that time will tell. Like I said, we're asking them to be the very best at what it is that they do. And, we try to have those little ideas. Hey, we're going to give you objectives. And we don't want you worried about all your personal goals and different things like that. That if you have objectives of the defense, you have individual objectives. At the end of the year, you can evaluate the goals. So we got to keep those guys that are highly, that we believe can do a lot of things and people outside believe can do a lot of things, highly motivated to be a part of a 1/11th of their unit. And, again, we do expect that they can do a lot of things. The great thing that those guys will provide for us is versatility. They aren't just, Adolphus Washington is only a defensive end, and Noah Spence is only a Viper. No, those guys can move a little bit. All of a sudden, you see one down inside, or you see one on the other side. They provide us the ability to not just play one position. I think that's the thing that makes it exciting about what that front seven, what those guys can do.
Back row left, Dave.
Okay, that's all. Leadership. John Simon's not here anymore. Zach Warren's not here anymore, and you got a young defense over there, a lot of talent. But who has emerged, and who will we see kind of take over some of those leadership roles?
Leadership is one of those buzzwords that everybody wants to talk about, and who are the leaders, and who is this, and who is that, and the reality is, like we said, we're going to be a group. And we're going to be 11 guys. And, at one point in time, it might be one guy. Another point in time, it might be another. Obviously, your Christian Bryant, your C.J. Barnett's, those guys, your Michael Bennett's, those guys have been in the program for 3 and 4 years. Are going to be those guys that we lean upon. And, we put them in those situations in those tough times. But the reality is we need every one of these guys. And we need these guys to start with leading themselves. And that's sometimes those pressure things that start to happen. I know that, Ryan Shazier is a great example. Is a guy who wants to be this, he wants to do that. And sometimes you just got to pull him back and say, hey, let's lead yourself and others will follow. And I think that's what we're really trying to see here in the next 3, 4, 5 weeks, whatever coach is going to do. But the reality is we start to build through the season, not always the guy that's voted captain is the greatest leader. And I think Coach Vrabel said it this morning in his staff meeting. He said, I wasn't voted captain in my senior year, but I felt like I was one of the best leaders. And I was one of those guys there and know that that's exactly the case. And that's what you start to see throughout the year. You know, when you lead yourself, then all of a sudden people start following, and that's what we're going to try to find out. Is, you know, we've got some guys that maybe haven't been in there as much, and we'll get a good feeling for, as those guys, when the tough times hit, who are those guys that still lead themselves, who have that same fire and that passion and energy that's contagious to help other people. So
Have you seen that John Simon kind of trade out of any of your guys?
I think there's a bunch of guys that got it. The problem with great leadership is consistency, and that's to me the trigger of a great leader. It's not always a great motivator. You know, I think those are two different things. Someone talks about a great leader. What does a great leader have? They're humble. They're obviously, they care about others, and they're consistent in what they do. And that's what you got to see throughout a season. Maybe we haven't had that guy or those younger guys that have been able to prove that yet because, you know, they haven't been in those situations. So I think that's what you start to see. If you want to say the greatest trait about John Simon is the most consistent person you could ever find. You know, it didn't matter what the score was. You were up 30 or down 30, whether it was 100 degrees out or it was 35 degrees out. You know, and I think that's, as a leadership thing, is what we're really going to have to fall upon, is that guy that it doesn't matter the situation. You know, we've got a lot of guys with different personalities, and guys are going to be a motivator at this point in time and a motivator at this point in time. But who are those guys that are going to be the true leaders, that are going to have the consistency, the unselfishness to make others around them better?
Last question, Tim. One quickie. Did you vote for Vrabel for captain?
No. No.
And number two.
I can't remember. I've been hitting the head too many times.
Number two, can you give us your rotation right now, you think, at linebacker? Who do you expect to play on Saturday?
I mean, again, there's some different packages for a lot of different guys. If we went out there today and started, it would be Curtis Grant in the middle, Ryan Shazier at will, and Joshua Perry at Sam. And the thing that this crew is going to be able to bring us is the ability to have some versatility. You might see a package with 6 DBs out there. You might see a package with 2 linebackers. You might see a package with 1 linebacker. And so we still have those abilities with some of those guys. You know, a guy that nobody talks about is a Pitt Brown, who's a 5th-year kid who you know, it deserves and has proven to us and a lot of people that there's a big role and a part for this defense, and it's not just the guy that can fill in for any position. So he's a guy that we're going to find a way to get more on the field and find a way to, you know, in whatever situation it is, to find those best 11.
Is Mitchell, though, or is he in your thinking now, for example, freshman?
Yeah, there's a bunch of those freshman guys. They're going to be thrusted into that opportunity, and you know, that's why Coach talks about that competitive excellence idea, is that when your opportunity arises, if you don't take it, you don't go, and you don't, you know, show that you can do it, those opportunities sometimes come few and far between.